Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. Very glad I can be a part of your day and that you're allowing me into your home. Hopefully, this will be a show that will be inspiring and maybe encourage you today and maybe even inspire you to do some painting today. So, we started a painting last week, 16 by 20, and we'll kind of go at the canvas here and show you what we've done. It's our basic 16 by 20 canvas. We started out with just this kind of this nice little sky here with the mountain range and some mountains or some trees that we put here on the left with this little stream that's here. And what we're going to do today is we're just going to start back in on this, and hopefully by the end of this show we can have this wrapped up and then we can start in on a new one. I'll go through now the palette really quickly. I've got a lot of different colors that are in here, but the ones we'll be using predominantly are this cobalt blue, a dioxazine purple, and we've got our titanium white. And those should give us all we need to start the painting back at it today. So we're going to grab a little 1/2 inch brush here, and I want to take and just develop a little bit more down here in the foreground before we put in some trees here on the right. And so I'm just going to grab into some of my titanium white. And it's a little bit of the cobalt blue and just a touch of that dioxazine purple in there. Just want to get kind of a nice very light lavender, but yet have some of the blue hues in it. And we'll go over here on this bank here on this side here, and I'm just going to take and pull this down. I'm following the contour of our landscape here that's coming down to the water, and I'll load up again, and I just want to just take and just make that so that it defines kind of a little bit more of the snow that's coming down that little bank down to the water's edge. And maybe I'll grab just a little bit more, and maybe we'll put just a little lighter shades that you might be seeing of the bank behind those trees. And then we'll put in a little, just ever so slightly, a little down here. We're going to do a little bit more in this area, really not needing to worry too much about that. And finish up with a little bit over here. I'll set that brush aside, and now what I want to do is I want to grab my palette knife, and I'm going to go just a little bit of the titanium white, that same mixture of that lavender, and just a little bit mottled, and I just get a little on the end of the palette knife, and I just want to bring out a little bit more of a highlight on those hills that are, or those mountains in the background there. So our light source is coming from the right here, so I'm just hitting just a few little spots. And then the palette knife, especially with it, what you're doing basically is you're just letting it kind of scumble down the side. So it's going to pull off different paint as you're doing this. This just will make those mountains pop a little bit more in the distance there. And I don't really need to do a whole lot with that, but I just thought it would look a little better with a little bit more definition in the mountain range in the background. It really makes those mountains pop a little bit more by putting that on there. So now we'll take, before we get too far with putting our, we're going to put a couple of trees here on the right side, but I think before we do that, I want to take and over here on the left side where we've got these three fir trees. I want to take now and make those like there's some snow that is sitting on on the boughs of that tree. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing my fan brush, grabbing just a little bit of paint thinner, and coming down here into my titanium white. And I don't want this real soupy, but I want to have it pretty fluid. And it looks pretty good. We'll see what it looks like when we touch it up here. So what we do is basically the same way that we did the tree itself, only this time what I'm doing is I just want to touch a few spots, not all of it, but just a few spots here and there where the snow might be sitting there on those trees, on the boughs of those trees. Just kind of work your way back and forth. Just by doing this, it really makes these trees pop out nicely. And you know, this same technique, I use oil paint, but you could sure do this with acrylic. And I've done many things over the years for gifts. I will use the acrylic paint, and I'll paint similar scenes like this on cardstock for the great Christmas presents. You know, just all sorts of things that you can do with it. So don't feel like you're confined to just working with the canvas. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this and utilize your skills. And in my opinion, there's nothing nicer than getting a gift that is actually created by someone's talents, and so I think that makes it really fun. And I'm gonna do, I haven't reloaded my brush. I've still got a lot of paint that's still in the bristles here, so I'm just gonna, in the background here on these distant foothills, I want to just bring just a little bit. I just put it down and lift up. And what this does is it just gives the indication that there might be some snow on those back foothills that are back there. And you know, as you're doing this, just take your time and develop it as much as you would like. I just love painting, and it really makes my day go better. And when I'm stressed over life, for me to go and sit down at the easel is just very refreshing for me, and it allows me to kind of forget about the cares of the world and everything that's happening. What I did there was I just grabbed just a little bit of the dioxazine purple, and I added it to the white here. And what this is doing is it's just kind of killing the brightness of the snow on those distant hills. And these trees that are here, in more towards the foreground, I'm just taking with the edge of the fan brush and just kind of touching a few spots here and there. It gives the illusion that they are closer to us, which they would be in this painting. And a few little spots back and forth. And it just taking my finger and just killing a few spots where there's a little bit too much paint on there. And I like this. I'm going to continue. I'm going to go right back into that paint thinner and titanium white. And I want to just very lightly hit a few spots. Now this is a thinner paint than what I have on the wet that we put in there to begin with. And what this does is the wet paint will, or thinner paint, will stick better onto that more stiff paint, as they would say. And I want to take now, I just want to take and going back and forth, and hopefully you can see this. I'm just going back and forth just to indicate this water. Doesn't need to be a lot. This is probably all frozen over or close to it, so it doesn't need to be perfect, but need to have a little bit more development in that water. And that gives us a nice little scene. Now, if you probably are wondering why I have this big wide open space here on the right side, the reason why is I want to take now and do some nice big deciduous type trees that are here, probably a couple of them, and the branches that come across. So to do that, what I'm doing is I'm going to grab we'll go right into the same mixture. I'm grabbing some of my cobalt blue, a little bit more of the dioxazine purple, and a pretty good glob of titanium white there. And I think what I'll do is I'll thin that down just a little bit so that it will be a little more fluid when we put it on. That looks pretty good, maybe just a hair bit more. And I wouldn't, this is one of those things that you really need to practice this yourself, and you'll get a feel for the paint as the more you work with it. So we're going to take and say there's a big tree that comes down about like so. This is kind of a bravery test for you, maybe to take and go across what you've already painted. And the farther I come down, the more pressure I'm putting. And my bristles obviously are spreading out, and it gives just makes the lines easier on the edge of that tree. And that's pretty good. And if you notice, I angled it in to the painting. What that does is the eye, you need an eye stop to come into our focal point, which is that beautiful mountains that we painted there. So we've got an eye stopper on this side, and we've got these trees that we're developing on the right side, so that your eye comes in. It doesn't wander off of the canvas. So we'll set that brush aside really quick, and we'll grab one of our script brushes here and grab a little bit more paint, and then we'll take and develop out some limbs that are on this tree. And I talk about this all the time if you've watched the show. So many students of mine struggle with doing getting the paint right and using the script brush, and it really is quite simple once you get the feel of it, and how thick or thin the paint needs to be. And you'll find that it can be done very easily, but it just takes a little bit of practice and time, and you can develop this skill. It makes it look like you are a real master at painting if you can do these trees. And they're a lot of fun to do, and I paint them all the time. I usually have a tree in almost every painting that I do. And they're just a lot of fun, and you can put in as many limbs as you would like, or as few as you would like. And maybe you want to do a regular, maybe you want to do a fir tree that's on this side rather than having these deciduous trees. But that's your prerogative, and it's your painting. You have that license to do whatever you want to do. And in this world, you can do anything that you want to do. Nobody's going to tell you that it's right or it's wrong. If you do it and you're happy with it, then that's all that matters. And I guarantee you that there's going to be people that are going to like what you do, Doesn't matter what you paint, subject matter or your techniques. Um, it's just one of those things that I. It's the reason why there's so many different artists that are out there doing all sorts of different things. It's because there's everybody's got their own tastes, and so don't ever be afraid to step out and try something new in your painting. Or I know that, and I talk about it quite often, that it's one of those things that when you paint a painting, you are basically giving a piece of yourself in every painting that you do. And that's kind of scary for some people. And I'm just putting some little feet that are coming down here into the. We'll put some sprigs of snow there in a little bit. But just be yourself. Enjoy the process, and I think that if you do it, you will see that it's a lot of fun. It's something that's very relaxing, and in our world with all of this stuff that's going on, to have an escape of somewhere you can go to escape kind of the daily grind of things and the status of maybe where the world is at, and just by doing these little simple paintings, it can really make you feel a whole lot better about life in general. Now I want to take just a little bit more of the dioxazine purple and add into that mix. And what I want to do is I want to take now, our light source again is coming from our right here. So I want to just take and do a little bit of some shading that's on the far, or on this left side of the painting. You don't have to do every branch, but you need to do enough to where it definitely shows that this would be the shadowed side. And again, I'm working very quickly here, and if I'm painting at a speed that you're not comfortable with, don't try to rush it. Just kind of sit and watch the technique I have, and then when you have the time at home, then you can just incorporate what you've learned here on the show into your own paintings. And I'm just, if you can see, I'm just adding in a few spots. It's not completely solid here, but it's definitely giving the illusion that the light source is from the right side here. So I'll do a couple more spots here just to on a few of these little limbs that are out here. That's probably pretty good for right now. And again, this is something that, I mean, if I worked and did all of these limbs, it would take quite a bit of time. So, and I don't want to take and waste all of my time on the show doing all of that repetition. But if I can give you the principles and give you the ideas, then you can take and work that yourself. So that's pretty good. I want to take now and do a few little highlights that are coming in on the side there, and I'm going to go right back into with my palette knife, and I'm just going to go into that mixture there that we had, and we want to make sure that this is a lot lighter, but I'm just kind of throwing it in there, and then I'm cutting off just a little roll of paint on the side. And I just want to touch, I don't know if you'll be able to see this very good, but I just basically touching right along the edge of that tree, and I want it a little brighter with a little more white in it. So I just touch it on the edge and pull it across. That's almost still even too lavender for what I'm wanting. So I'll just wipe the excess off my paint here, and we'll go straight into our titanium white. And so just coming down the same way. Now, I've done on the show several paintings where we've done aspen trees or birch, whichever you prefer in terminology there. And this is probably, you could definitely put this as one of those trees too. And what this does with the palette knife, and you can do this with a regular paintbrush, but I like the palette knife because it adds some texture to the painting, and it looks very, very much like you would see with the birch trees or aspens. And just a few spots down the trunk there, and we'll come back in, hit just a few more here on this other tree. And these little spots of light like this really make these trees pop out. Now I'm grabbing just a little bit of my titanium, or my cobalt blue, and I want to just take and make a little bit more of a darker shadow now with this on the shadowed side. So what I'm going to do is, just to make it for easement, I'm just going to take, and turn the canvas, and it'll be easier for me to hit a few of those spots coming down, and just pull it across into the white that you've already put on. This makes a really nice shadowed color on the side there. And again, I keep reiterating it, but just take your time on your painting at home. Don't feel like you have to work at the pace that I do. I don't normally work at this pace when I'm at home working in my home studio. So, everyone has their own speed that they're comfortable with, and the more you paint, the faster and easier it's going to become. So don't worry about the speed. It's more doing it at the rate that you're happy with. Now I'm going to take just a little bit at the corner of my palette brush or palette knife, and just a few little spots, and I just used the straight dioxazine purple, and just putting in a few little spots where those limbs that growing up may have been. They always have kind of those little eyes that are on the limbs and on the trunk. That looks pretty good like that. Now I'd like to take and put a few little wisps of grass here, maybe a little bit of grass that's on the other side there. And so I'm just going to grab my fan brush, and we're going to grab some of the dioxazine purple, putting it in that same mix that we had up there, and a touch of the cobalt blue. Just a nice little lavender color. And then I just take and pull this up in the corner here, where it might be the grasses that are sticking up right at the base of these two big birch trees. And one a little darker now. And we'll maybe put a few little sprigs of grass that are coming up over here on this distant bank. And I sure hope that you've been painting along with me on this one. And if you haven't, it's a very simple painting, one that I think that anybody can do, and I think it would be a lot of fun for you, something that you can be very proud of as you further your path down the artist road. I'm going to take now to finish it off, wipe off my palette knife. I'm going to grab just a little bit of my titanium white, and I want to take just along the bank here. I'll just take my palette knife, and I'm just taking and running it back and forth right against that bank. And what this does is it just gives that little bit of a water line that might be showing there along the bank. And maybe just a few little spots to across the surface here. Kind of gives the illusion maybe that this is iced along up here. And a few right there in the very background. And with that, we're going to call that painting finished. Like I said, I hope that you've painted along with me, or if you haven't, I hope that you maybe are inspired now to do that at home. We all need encouragement. We all need support, and I want to be that support to you in your pathway to becoming a better artist. And even if you do nothing with it, maybe you're not interested in trying to sell your things. It's not about the sale, it's about what it does for you and your soul. And the name of the show is Art and Soul. It's as much about the soul and what it does for your mindset, for your soul, spirit, for your outlook on life. We all need that in our lives, need that encouragement and support. And I hope that you will find that here on Art and Soul. Thank you again for joining me, and I hope to see you next week again here on Art and Soul. Have a great and inspired week.